I'm Steven, the Calculator Guy, founder of DeFi Dojo Discord, and also the head of Define Logic Labs, a data analytics company that has partnered with 7Cs on the Real Yield ETH Vault on Sommelier. Now, why am I telling you that? I want you to understand that I have a vested interest in the success of Real Yield ETH, and that is a bias that I hold while recording this video. So I want you to understand that so you can contextualize what I'm saying for this video. Now, what is Real Yield ETH? Real Yield ETH is an index of ETH yields on Ethereum mainnet. So rather than being a vault that represents a single fixed strategy, it is a vault that represents a number of strategies that will be weighted both by TVL soft cap as well as yield. What does that really mean and what does that look like? Well, here's a basic visualization. This is not using actual data. This is simply a visualization so you can understand what I mean by saying a TVL soft cap weighted as well as yield weighted vault. So here we have 4 different strategies and then the overall yield on the top. Now, the 4 different strategies have different soft caps. You can see here 2 million, 5 million, 50 million, and 1 million. And as those strategies reach those soft caps here, then the remaining new deposits or the new TVL coming in will stop going to those strategies, and then the other strategies will get a larger weighting. So you can see this strategy has its soft cap here, and as more TVL comes in, it becomes less and less the weight of the vault, and other strategies become larger and larger or gain more of the weight of the vault until eventually only one strategy can handle any more TVL, around 40 million, and that gets all new entering deposits. Of course, while that happens, while the TVL increases, yield will slowly go down over time. But what's unique about this is that this vault setup, by being weighted by both TVL soft caps as well as yield, this vault will at any TVL be deploying capital in the most maximally efficient way to capitalize on the available yields and underlying strategies. So if TVL is low, it's going to be weighted and biased towards lower TVL soft cap, higher yield strategies. As TVL gets higher, it's going to be more biased towards the higher TVL soft cap, potentially lower yield strategies. But what this allows it to do is scale with TVL rather than being a single fixed strategy that has a single TVL soft cap assumption and that will eventually get diluted by that TVL maximization. All right, hopefully that made some sense. Let's look at some actual numbers. So Real Yield ETH launched yesterday based on the assumption that during Shanghai, we would see a lot of volatility between ETH derivative and ETH pairs on between swaps as well as the LST potentials to repeg. What I mean by that is now that there is faith in the ability to withdraw ETH, we are assuming that many of the LSTs will start to reach parity. So your CB ETHs, your ST ETHs, your R ETHs, well, R ETH is already at parity. ST ETH is really close to parity, but CB ETH was quite off parity, which means off peg or away from what its underlying value should be. Okay, now another good thing, just as a side note, I wonder if you guys can see, barely, blue ETH inflows, purple ETH outflows, or rather deposits versus withdrawals, and it seems like deposits into ETH staking are actually outperforming ETH withdrawals. So definitely a good sign after Shanghai. Nevertheless, the assumption was accurate. So if we go over to the debank for the vault, so this is actually the debank that represents the Real Yield ETH vault. You can see the 1.5 million TVL that we currently have in the vault and how it is deployed. So it is deployed in 2 major strategies at the moment. One is a CB ETH leveraged loop on Aave v3, and the other is a Uniswap v3 tick optimization LP between CB ETH and ETH. And so you might be wondering, well, how is that pair doing? Currently, because the assumptions were that there would be a lot of volatility between ETH derivatives and ETH, it is performing exactly as expected for day one. Now, it is very important to understand that these yields should not be considered permanent yields or standard yields or the assumed yields or long-term yields. The launching yesterday during Shanghai was intentionally done to capitalize on the assumed volatility surrounding the event of Shanghai. So right now, because of the volatility, the total P&L is around $1.7 thousand on a pooled asset amount of 1.06 million. which is a little bit more than 0.1%. So substantially more. You can see annualized, it turns out being 80 to 90%, depending on how you want to annualize that yield. So this right now is the largest portion of the vault because it is, again, yield weighted as well as TVL soft cap weighted, and we have not yet met the TVL soft cap for the CB ETH wrapped Ethereum portion of this index. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's dive in back into the mechanics of staking ETH with real yield ETH. So when you come to real yield ETH, and by the way, this is not available in the US. So if you are using a VPN, you should switch your VPN back to wherever you actually live so that you aren't breaking any of the rules or laws here. So real yield ETH, right? You can click buy and sell, and then you would connect your wallet and deposit either CB ETH, RETH, or wrapped Ethereum. Now, it's important to note that wrapped Ethereum is going to have the least amount of slippage, in fact, very minimal slippage when entering the vault, whereas CB ETH and RETH may have more slippage depending on particular rates at that time. So my recommendation is definitely deposit wrapped Ethereum if you can, rather than RETH or CB ETH. It may even be better if you have CB ETH and RETH to convert them to wrapped ETH first before depositing. And once you deposit, you're going to wait about 5 minutes before you bond. Now, why would you bond? You bond to get the additional SOM rewards of real yield ETH. So SOM rewards right now are an additional 22.4% on top of the underlying yield, the underlying index's yield. So let's just say real yield ETH was getting 10% annualized, you would be getting 32% overall annualized based off of these additional incentives. Now, these additional incentives are set to be 1 month long. However, if there is a lot of interest in this vault and the sommelier community and validators and governance determines that there should be an additional incentive package, there may be extended incentives for this vault, but that is determined by them and not just arbitrarily. All right, so once you have deposited your ETH, you will then wait 5 minutes and then bond. The reason for waiting 5 minutes is to avoid any particular MEV that may come from immediately bonding right after. So then you bond, you will have 3 different choices, 7 days, 14 days, or 21 days. And depending on how long you bond, that will determine how much of the outgoing emissions in SOM you receive. Of course, the longer you bond, the more emissions that you receive. The purpose of bonding is so that if we have any strategies that may be a little bit more time sensitive or that may require some sort of complex unwinding in the smart contracts, that we have the time to do that because the majority of the, like right now, I think 99% of all deposits are bonded. So if you are bonded, perfect. That gives us a little bit more wiggle room, though we do always have a reserve for people who want to enter and exit immediately. 10% of the total TVL will always be available to withdraw immediately. Anything else will have to be rebalanced by the underlying algorithms of the strategy vault. But of course, that should only take minimal amounts of time. All right, there we go. So again, the flow is deposit, bond, then you maximize your rewards. But that may not be the only thing you can do with this vault in the future. I do want to mention as well that while we are currently only utilizing 2 major strategies, this vault and its potential adapters are only limited to the prowess of the smart contract developers and the time availability of the auditors. So we do have sort of auditors that do look at every single new integration of the real yield ETH vault. And as TVL comes in and as the yields start to change, more integrations and more adapters will be built so that this index can tap into more highly trusted, quote unquote, blue chip opportunities to continue to take in TVL in such a way that it is not diluted by only having a minimum number of strategies. That is what makes this particular vault have a lot more longevity than vaults that only have a single fixed strategy. So the single fixed strategy, once it meets its TVL soft cap, there's no more interest in that vault, and it's not until a new vault comes out with a new strategy, with a new TVL soft cap, that interest can then shift to the new vault. Our vault avoids having this problem by being an index of a variety of strategies, both weighted again by TVL soft cap as well as yields, so that at any given time, the yields will shift to maximize yield for whomever is depositing. Not financial advice. I'm simply trying to explain the mechanics of how the underlying smart contracts work. All right. Now, one thing to note is that while you are receiving some emissions, they are not super liquid on ETH mainnet. So one thing you might want to do is take them to a chain where they are much more liquid. My recommendation would be Osmosis. So you can bridge your SOM to your Kepler wallet. So hopefully you have a Kepler wallet. I know some of you may not be super DeFi savvy. That's totally fine. I do recommend getting a Kepler wallet, which connects to the IBC, which is like the Cosmos ecosystem of blockchains. And once you do that, you can send your SOM directly to your sommelier, to the sommelier chain in your Kepler wallet. And then from there, you can deposit those directly onto Osmosis. So when you deposit those onto Osmosis, you can then trade them for whatever you want, whether it be USDC, Atom, Ethereum, whatever, and then withdraw that to the blockchain of your choice. All right, that's just about it. Again, I am incredibly excited for this vault and its potential future capabilities. It's already performing as expected, and we're very excited about that. But I perceive it as only growing in both capabilities as well as robustness moving forward. And this isn't even to mention its potential composability within larger DeFi ecosystems. So as it stands, we have some vaults like Real Yield USD, which operates a semi-similar strategy, but for stablecoins that is composable on dApps like DMEX, where you can actually use it as collateral and get some rewards over on DMEX and then borrow against it. Now, is that going to be possible for Real Yield ETH? That is going to be determined both by governance as well as other protocols that wish to host this as collateral. So only the future will tell whether or not that will be the case. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And of course, have a wonderful rest of your day.